Welcome to Top of Search with Robyn and Abe, where we talk about e-commerce, Amazon, and more.
Welcome to Top of Search. I'm Robyn Johnson, and this is Abe Chomali, and we're here to talk about all things e-commerce. And as we start this podcast, I first want to make sure that you get a chance to know a little bit about us. And Abe and I were just talking before we started this recording about what I think is going to be most magical about this podcast is that we both have a pretty deep experience in Amazon, but we both come with different personalities, different styles, and we're already seeing that in the podcast. And I think that sometimes in Amazon, people will say, like, this is the only right way. And I think that Abe and I both come from, there's lots of ways. It's finding the right way for the client. I don't know if you, Abe, did you want to start by telling people a little bit about yourself? Because you have this deep, rich experience, not just in Amazon, but you've been doing this since most people were like still in high school.
Yeah, there's definitely been a very long and winding road to get to our podcast episode 1 today. That's for sure. Yeah, I can definitely start out with the short intro. I am sure that over the course of a long and successful podcast run, a billion anecdotes will come up from within the story. 91, started selling products. No internet yet. We sold products based off of ads in the back of magazines. 99, we started selling online. There was no Yahoo, there was no Amazon yet. There was almost nothing. There was just Yahoo stores. That was day one. Turned into our own website, turned into Amazon in 2009, sold hundreds of millions of dollars worth of merchandise over a whole bunch of years. 2018, I had the opportunity to lean into the part of the business that I liked best, which was always the advertising. And I've been doing just advertising for sellers and for brands from then till now. So what are we at, 7 years or something? So yeah, that is the very, very short version of what my path has looked like. And within that, there have been a lot of bumps and a lot of potholes and a lot of great moments.
Well, and what I love about you is not only, I think you've got a great energy where you bring a lot of peace to the conversation, but you have a really strong depth of knowledge and it's very steady. So you don't get, I don't feel like you sweep from fad to fad. I feel like you are one of the people that I can trust is going to make sure that anything that you're sharing or teaching is really based in fundamentals. But still like colored with whatever is like new and current and what's really working.
But yeah, I've seen enough things get introduced and go nowhere, or I've seen enough things get introduced and it took 4 more versions before it was useful to be a little bit skeptical every time there's a new feature that comes out in anywhere. Sometimes it's not sometimes it's not great to be the skeptical person in the room every time everybody is excited. But I find that for my business and for all the people I work with, that tends to be the best mindset. It's funny. I'm actually in a mastermind, obviously with Nate, with your husband, and Nate does Amazon advertising like I do. And in this mastermind, we always talk about new features. We talk about ideas and things. And no matter what anybody is discussing, I have developed a reputation for asking, that looks good, but can it scale? Because everything looks great when you're talking about a single product and you have 7 hours a day to play with a setting. But when you have to do it for a large business with many products or many accounts, you immediately have to think in a different way about your products and your business. And that tends to be the way that I look at all the things that come across my desk, all the things that come across my monitor.
I was at like a conference and this guy was introducing himself. He's like, I'm OG Amazon. I've been around for like 5 years. And I was like, oh, sweetie, that's not OG Amazon. And, I think like, why does that matter? But I think, when you've been in Amazon for so long, when things are new and when to get excited about stuff and when to say, let's see how that really pans out.
Yeah, there are so many people who think that they are experts based on a very small amount of experience. And it's sort of, on one hand, it's amusing. And on the other hand, if those people have the charisma to actually get a bunch of people listening to them, it can be frustrating also. It moves from amusing to frustrating when a lot of people listen to this person who has personality, but not good information behind it.
And, I think that one of the things that I'm excited about the podcast is, we both have different kinds of clients. And, because, sometimes people are like, this is the way to do, this kind of sponsored display. Well, I think, you and I were just talking yesterday about, sponsored display makes sense here, but not here. And I think that, having that varied experience can help people identify maybe just what people are talking about might be working for some people, but doesn't necessarily mean you have to do that in your business, right?
Oh, yeah, there's so many things that connect to the way ads work. So the thing you sell, the price you sell it at, the experience and history of the product, your aggressiveness, all of those affect how anything that you try is going to end up working. And your results are absolutely not reflecting what it will look like when somebody with a different product or a different budget is going to try that same thing. Now, of course, many things work for everybody and many things don't work for anybody. So there are plenty of things in common with lots of products. But to say you came up with something super unique, well, part of what makes it super unique for you might mean that it can't work for anybody else. I mean, I can actually give you an anecdote if you want to start with those.
I love anecdotes.
All right. So I know somebody who sells a premium product for kids. We'll keep it vague. They sell a premium product for kids, and it's a space where there are a lot of less expensive competitors. They do very well on TikTok. TikTok feeds a lot of traffic to Amazon, and we were talking in a general way about their Amazon ads, and they were explaining that something very atypical is that their sponsored brand ads outperform the rest by far. And this was puzzling because anybody who does a lot of advertising knows that sponsored brands in general, maybe at most should average about 30% of spend, and typically at most won't give you more than 10% of your sales. Those are the most common numbers. So to say that by far it's your best performer and by far it gives you the most sales, that's a puzzling thing. And I wrestled with it a little bit, and then I realized the reason that it performs the best for them is because since they have a premium priced product, a sponsored brand ad hides the price. They don't see a price on a sponsored brand headline ad. So they have good creatives. The sponsored brand ad brings the shopper to their page, and their product genuinely is a better product at a higher price. The product page does the work of completing the sale. Whereas with a sponsored product ad, where you are just a thumbnail in a sea of thumbnails, and it's hard to see what makes you special, and you are just 30% more or 50% more, you are losing out to everybody that's right next to you and yelling with a lower price. So that's a thing which works in a very specific spot. But you cannot suggest to anybody that, hey, raise your price by 30% and hide it with a sponsored brand ad. That is not a strategy. It's not a thing that I would suggest to anybody, but it is a thing that worked for one person. And there's a billion of those things that work for one person. Across all my accounts, I've probably got a dozen things that I know will work amazing for one brand, will not work for anybody else.
And I think those are the things that really make a difference, in one of the things that an agency like yours can really provide is that insight, because I feel like there's the standard best practices that should be followed and, with some exceptions here and there, but each brand is going to have something that doesn't convert for somebody else that does convert for you. And it takes that experience to say, okay, well, this is a premium product. This is a new to category product. This is more of a commodity, to really know what strategy and how that changes as the brand evolves.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I have seen so many, I've just seen a lot. And I've seen products which are not differentiated. I've seen products which are amazing. And I've run ads for so many scenarios. One of my favorite is I actually took on a brand a couple of years ago. They have an absolutely undifferentiated product, but the brand they came up with is amazing. It was the best brand name ever. And I said, the truth, this is your product. There's nothing special about your product at all. But I think that your name is so good that putting the brand name at the beginning of the listing will help it do really well. And we took them on. They had the resources and inventory and the commitment to building their brand. In the first year, they did $3 million worth of business from zero. And they were selling a low priced product. It was under $20. It was very much off the strength of the brand name, and to the point where by the end of the first year, we were actually ranking higher for some other brands' branded searches, because when they would search for the other brand, our brand sounded better and it would take more sales than what people were searching for. Again, I don't suggest that a brand name will beat everybody in a complex market, but here it was exactly the thing that made it work.
And, each brand has their unique point, right? And so it's finding what makes them special, finding what customers really love about their product, and making sure that that discovery piece really happens for the right people. What would you say is the thing that makes your agency different from, because when both of us started, like there were no Amazon agencies. It wasn't a thing. But now there's a lot of agencies. What would you say makes your agency the most unique?
So the funny answer is you get to hear my jokes more often than you would otherwise. That probably actually is like 15% of the reason some people work with me. But aside from that, I think the thing that makes us special is our responsiveness. So a lot of agencies, and I don't want to generalize because of course there are many good people that do fantastic work, but there are a lot of agencies that put all of their effort into convincing someone to work with them. And then as soon as the dotted line is signed, that's it. It's a ghost town. You'll hear from people every 2 weeks and you'll get an emailed report to you every Monday. And God help you if you need any question on a Tuesday afternoon or a thing happened. For our accounts, we open up a Slack channel that people can ask their team anything they need. We dedicate multiple people to each account. We try to be responsive and we try to be helpful. And that commitment to making people happy, I think it results in good quality work happening because we care. Of course, I can't convince a shopper to buy a thing, and I cannot guarantee a result. But typically, when you do the work properly and when you are responsive, that ends up creating good results all around.
I can't agree with that more. I think that makes a big difference for brands, and I think it makes a big difference in the way that you would even approach an account, right? Because when you have a small enough client base where you're able to really give that one-on-one care that comes from that responsiveness, I really feel like the fruit of the work is really different.
Yeah, 100%. The energy that we put into it and the energy that everybody brings to it is reflected in the product and what shows up for the shoppers. You can tell when there is an enthusiastic, happy company. They have colors that are brighter in their listings. They have messaging which is happy. They're having messages about feeling great and looking great and, having a happier life after you buy their product. Whereas someone who has somebody who chooses lemon for their afternoon snack, you can tell that they're more focused on price or some technical thing which is not so interesting to a shopper, and they're just trying to squeeze a shopper into making a purchase. It doesn't work as well typically.
Well, and you and I were, we had been talking about how we should have been recording those conversations too, right? We were talking about, sometimes people will say, oh, well, you need to be running sponsored display for this particular kind of ad or for this particular kind of product. But in reality, you really do need to look at like what the company's goals are and, like what the customer lifetime value is, all of those things to really determine, which best practices should be applied.
Yeah, it's 100% true. One of the things we try to do, I speak to many brands every year, people who are interested in working with us, some people who just need a little bit of guidance. And the main thing I try to get out of each of those conversations is how did they get here and what's their pain point and where do they want to go? And those things come out of conversations. Now, we do plenty of audits, but in reality, an audit or an offer of an audit is just taking some data and running it through a few filters. So we're going to run a filter to see how many search terms got no clicks but no sales. How many search terms got no impressions? How much spend was at a high ACoS? Those are just filters you can run against a couple of reports, and they'll give you a standardized look at metrics against averages. There is value there. But the truth is, if you're contacting me or if you're contacting someone else, you already know there's a problem. You don't need the numbers to reinforce that. Nobody's contacting me when they're super happy and they want to get triple X as happy. No, contact me because there's an issue, and the issue is in the details. So yeah, understanding the picture is really the most important thing.
What would you say is the client type that you think that you can bring the most value to?
Someone who is unfocused. I work with a lot of brands which will have many SKUs in an account and they don't know how to focus their attention within their catalog. Or people who are on multiple channels and they don't know which is worth their time. Or people who have tried a lot of things, they aren't sure what has worked and what hasn't and what they should keep doing. Or people who are not happy with performance but aren't exactly sure what the issue is. In all of those cases, really focusing on the details and really bringing a clear strategy to the picture is what gets the best results, like right off the bat.
I think that makes a big difference as well. And I think that I think it's interesting because we kind of have a similarity there. And what I'm hearing is, I know you say that you're an advertising only agency, but, what I'm hearing is you're doing more than that. You're really helping people like funnel and like distill what it is they need to focus on and providing kind of this longevity that you've had in digital marketing to really help people get the best yield, not just out of their advertising dollars on Amazon, but their overall marketing efforts.
Yeah, it's funny you say that because when people ask me what I do, I often describe it as PPC plus. So I'm not just going to build a campaign and tweak some bids. We typically will talk about which combination of variations is going to be most effective and what price point is more likely to make sales versus the maximum profitability versus the most units to move. We will have conversations about things that are a little bit outside what the ads are, and we simply do that because that makes the PPC work better. So we call it PPC plus. Those are things that have to do, like I said, from what is most likely to get a click, what's most likely to get a sale. We talk about inventory management, where if you're running out of stock, whether it's best to slow down sales or keep sales running at full speed. There are different theories in each way or different reasons why each one might work. All those extra things are part of what the conversations look like.
Is there a client that you're like, this is not who I enjoy working with, or this is a client that it's hard for us to produce results for?
Yeah, there's two clients which are very, very difficult. The first client are the people that are not interested in participating in the process of selling. There are people who think that if they hire an agency, all of their issues are done. All of the sales are the responsibility of the ad agency, and that's it. Everything, that's what I hire you for. Anything that's not working right, well, that's what I hire you for. If somebody leaves a few negative reviews, well, just advertise extra. And like nothing is on them, when in reality, there's absolutely a collaboration that needs to happen. You need to watch your product quality. You need to watch like all of the things, you need to have a fully running business, and ads are a piece of the business. That's the first situation, which often doesn't go well. And the other thing that doesn't go well is quite simply people that don't have the resources. For better or worse, selling a lot on Amazon requires some amount of resources. And one of the questions I ask when I speak to somebody is, how's your inventory? And I tell them, before you answer that, I said, here's the more specific question. If I do everything right and you triple your sales in the first few weeks, do you have enough inventory to keep selling at full speed before more merchandise comes in? And the first question is, how are you on inventory? A lot of times the answer is different than when I add that condition in. And if you don't have the inventory backed up, all you're doing is having great sales until you run out. You didn't help yourself. Or there are people who will hire me and they'll give me a budget of $30 a day. Now, you don't need me to spend $30 a day. You need me to spend more than 30. Whatever, we can pick 100 different numbers, but 30 is not enough. But there are people who will start like that. And they say, well, we want to build up slowly. Now, I can certainly appreciate that. I don't think anybody should jump in with all their clothes on. But there is a difference between going slow and not being able to go fast. So you need the resources. If you've got the resources, if you are emotionally and intellectually invested in the success of your product, those are the ingredients that make it work.
It's almost like when people work with us, either of our agencies, it's kind of like sending your kid off to school. Yes, we'll take care of, we'll teach in the math and, we'll do these things, but there's still things that need to have to happen at home in order to get the best results, right? Like they'll still get something out of, the work, but I think that what you said with the budget is really important because there has to be a path to profitability. And if an agency is only managing $30 a day, like unless they have an incredible return because they're in some crazy niche or something like that, the likelihood of them being able to profit enough off that ads to pay for the agency fee isn't very likely.
And yeah, there is a picture. I mean, I love that example of sending the kids to school because, yes, they'll spend a certain amount of time in a class, but if they don't come home and do their homework, if they don't come home and eat proper nutrition that feeds those brain cells, and if they don't get X amount of sleep every day, they're going to be sluggish at school, unfocused, unprepared for tests, and all of the work that happens during those X amount of hours. It's funny, I say X amount of hours because I know that some people, schools between New York and Arizona and like France have way different amounts of schooling hours every day. But the truth is, if you're not prepared, those kids will not do well. And no matter what we say about the usefulness of school in further life, I am absolutely of the opinion that the ability to prepare for a thing is probably more important in some cases than the thing itself. So you might not use geometry ever again, but your ability to study for a test in a subject that you're not fully comfortable in, that's the skill that will take you far.
I think that kind of gives a little bit insight too about how, having an agency that really can work more one-on-one with clients really makes a difference, because it would be like having a classroom of, 18 versus having a classroom of 100. People do that. And if you think about like your kindergarten teacher versus your university teacher, like setting aside the age and curriculum difference, the amount of interaction and one-on-one ability to customize that lesson to that pupil is very different based off of that scale.
Yeah, 100%. That's probably one of the few comments I don't think I have a lot to add to. At least it fully stands on its own.
So if you could only have people know like one thing about your work or your agency or your expertise, what would you think that would be?
Have a lot of experience, and it helps me figure out the situations that come up going forward. Simple as that.
And I just want to add on that because I think you're underselling yourself. So here's how I know you. I know you are somebody with a deep set of knowledge who really listens and is actively out there looking at what's upcoming, what are people saying, and not just taking it at face value, but let's test that. Let's think about that. Let's, will that work all the way through? Is there going to be something where that breaks down? And you're really actively working to bring that to your clients. So, what you do is not just run advertising. You're watching the entire industry and trying to bring the best pieces of that to each of your individual clients in a way that is unique to their product, their experience, their level of brand volume, search affinity, those kinds of things. And that's really the value that you bring, is more than just moving numbers up and down in bids and budgets. It's really helping somebody formulate a winning strategy and being honest enough to tell them when that strategy is not winnable.
For those of you who are not watching this, I'm blushing a lot right now. But yeah, I very much appreciate you adding that extra color. And as I hear that, like, my brain is translating that into I care, which probably is the third component of it. Yes. I want my clients to do well. There are all different amount of challenges per brand, but in the end, I want the people I work with to be better off than where they started. That's as simple as that.
And I think for me, when I'm working with, a service provider, knowing that they care and that they're playing as if, they're part of the team and not just this is, something that's going to pay a bill, it makes a big difference in the results. So I'm so excited to do this project with you, because I really do think that, there's so much noise out there to be able to have real conversations about what's really working and be able to address things that maybe, we're like, well, everybody's talking about this thing, but, I don't know anybody that's actually experiencing it, results. I think there's a lot of potential value there.
Yes, being able to sift through what's out there, at least with our shared points of view, is going to be an interesting take on things.
Well, this has been the Top of Search podcast. We have had a lot of fun already starting to put this together and recording it. I hope you have had a great time listening and getting to know AB.
Thanks for listening to the Top of Search podcast. Have a burning question you would like answered or a topic you would like featured in a future episode? You can submit it at topoffsearchshow.com. If you love the episode, subscribe and leave a review. Each month, we'll be selecting one reviewer to win a one-on-one call with your choice of Abe or Robyn. Winners will be announced at the end of the first episode of every month.